Hello again, everyone. Gremlin Archer here. It's time for the A part of my Q&A. I put it off a little while. I don't really enjoy talking about myself all that much, so it's been a little rough for me to get the gumption up to record it. But I'm going to break this, I think, into there's sort of three sections. Not actually three videos, but three different parts of this video. The first one will be sort of the personal questions that I'm willing to answer. The second part will be a little bit about my gaming history, because there's a lot of questions that touch on my gaming history, which is probably easier just to give you my history rather than answer each question individually. And the last part is going to be about some information about the channel in general, because people have questions about that sort of stuff. So we'll just start out here. So the basic questions. So we have a few people like Mancy Lamb wants to know how old I am and where I live, and as does Michael McAllister wants to know a similar question: where do you live and what's your name, and keep up the good work. So the answer to that question, as much as I'm willing to answer, is that my name is Curtis. I'm 34 years old, and I live in upstate New York. That's about as specific as I'm willing to go on those particular questions. And the what is my day job? Banui Chichun asks what my day job is, and I work behind the scenes in TV news. You'll never see me on camera, but I'm back there. It also means that I work super early mornings because I work on a morning show, and what that means schedule-wise is that I literally get up at 3 o'clock in the morning to go to work, and my shift runs from 3:30 to 12:30. So yeah, so it's a rough schedule. Wouldn't recommend it for anybody. It's kind of hard on your body, and I like my job. I don't like the hours. Although the hours do allow me to do this hobby pretty easily, because I'm home in the middle of the afternoon when nobody else is. My wife is still at work. Nobody's really putting requests for my time. But it does kind of blow to have to go to sleep at 7:30 at night on most nights. So, the good with the bad. The next question we have is from The Diddler, who has a whole series of questions. What is your dream place to live / vacation? Do you prefer to drive, bike, public transport, or walk? Do you have any hobbies? Do you have a favorite food, favorite series? Any cool indie games on your radar? And, of course, the question, Coke or Pepsi, which the answer to that question is Coke. I drink Coke Zero at home for the lower amounts of calories, but if calories were not a question, I would drink regular Coke. Actually, Dr. Pepper is my favorite, but if I drink too much Dr. Pepper, it kind of bothers my stomach, so I don't do that a whole lot. Let's see if we can run down the other questions. Where's my dream place to live or vacation? Oh, God, I don't even know. I spent some time in New Zealand at one point. I really liked it there. So that was nice. Yeah, I guess that's probably it for that. Drive, bike, public transport, or walk. I would prefer to live in a place with public transport, because when I spend time in places like the New York City or San Francisco or Chicago, it's nice to use public transport, to not have to drive. Driving is fine, but it would be preferred not to do it if I could avoid it. Other hobbies, not so much. I don't have, between this and work, it doesn't leave me with a ton of time to do much of anything else hobby-wise, so not so much. Favorite food, I like pizza. Is that kind of lame? I'm not a foodie. Food is mostly there to keep me alive and not be disgusting. But other than that, I don't spend a huge amount of time worrying about my food. So, favorite series or video you have done? That, I had a lot of fun with Space Food Truck when I did it with my friends. That was really, really fun. I'm trying to think of if there's any other games that have just been a blast. I really enjoyed doing Stasis, which was a game I did a while back, because it was I haven't done that many strongly narrative-focused games, and it was nice to do an actual game that had a beginning, middle, and end, and you just kind of move through the whole thing. Way back when I did the Monstrum series, that was pretty good, because it was always good to get the blood pumping and get a little scare going. But yeah, I guess that's probably it. As for any cool indie games on my radar, I will probably skip that question for now and come back to that when I work on the channel question, because it more fits into that area. All right, so the last question of this section is Ryan Ashmore asks, do you do much tabletop gaming? Space Food Truck videos sounded like the kind of camaraderie that goes around a table at a game night. I don't do as much as I would like. I love tabletop gaming, but I have sadly moved into this period of life where most of the people I know are starting to have babies, and babies make it very hard to find time to do gaming. On top of that, it also makes it very hard to... My schedule, I should say, makes it very hard to find time to do gaming because I can't stay up particularly late on most nights, only on my weekend nights, and even then I start to fade at about 9:30 because I'm on a normal, like my normal schedule is super early in the morning. So I would love to spend more time tabletop gaming, but life is getting in the way. All right, so moving on to my gaming history part of the quiz. I had several questions, as you can see here, from people like The Real Puppet, what is your favorite game? Andrew Hoff, not sure if you've ever answered this, but what's your favorite video game series of games? Luxzf, have you ever thought about doing insert child game here, be it Quake, Doom, Galaga, Zaxxon, Streets of Rage? Would you want to show off your favorites? Daisy Casey wants to know, what is your favorite N64 game, PS1 game, Sega Genesis game, etc.? So I figured I'd just do a quick, like, hey, here's my gaming history section, to basically answer this question. My first gaming experiences would have been with my grandparents. My grandfather was a bit of a techie, even though he was an old man, and had a ColecoVision, gaming console. It's a contemporary of some of the early Atari consoles. And so probably my first gaming experiences were things like Centipede and Burger Time, I remember. What other games do I remember from that? Those are the two that really stand out as me playing on that ColecoVision. It had this like weird silver disky thing instead of direction buttons. But yeah, but I only played that when I saw my grandparents' house, which was not that often. And then my dad actually got, at as far back as I can remember, so I don't know exactly when he got it. He got an Atari ST, which is a personal computer that Atari made. Who knew? Most people I tell it to, they don't remember this. It had a desktop, kind of like what you see today, but it was green. The background was like this bright neon green color. It had no hard disk to speak of. Everything was on disks. But we had one of those, and we had a lot of little games for that. So I remember playing a version of Donkey Kong on that. There was a game that for a long time was My White Whale, because I couldn't find it. I had this vague memory of it in my head, but I could never find it. I finally found it. It's called Gold of the Realm. I haven't found an emulator that lets me actually play it so that I can experience it again, but I have very clear memories of that. We had a bunch of text adventures along the lines of Zork, which I tried to play as a small child, but didn't have the language skills necessary to achieve anything other than to like move around from room to room. But yeah, those were probably my earliest game experiences. And then as I got a little bit older, we got a Mac Classic, which was a little box with a very small screen that was black and white. And on that, we ended up with a lot of adventure games like Space Quest, King's Quest, those kinds of games. So I got into those for a little while when I was probably 8 or 9 years old. And then when I got a little bit older, this is kind of jumping ahead a little bit. When I got a little bit older, I had a friend who I would go over to his house and we would play those games together, and our two small child brains could eventually actually achieve something working together. And so that was pretty great. I loved those old the Space Quest and King's Quest games. And then when I got a little bit older, my parents got moved over onto the PC world back when PCs were clearly the better choice of Macs, which was in the mid-90s. And that's when things really took off for me, gaming-wise. I started playing. I remember playing the original Diablo, Doom, which if you ever watched any of the really short series I ran of Brutal Doom, I talked about this a little bit. Doom was a seminal game for me. I played it as a shareware at a friend's house once, and then I went crazy for it. I could play that game. I played that game over and over and over and over again. I bought Doom 2 on release day, which I think was the first time in my life I ever bought a game on release day. And yeah, I played that game. I modded that. I didn't make any mods, but it was the first experience with downloading and putting in mods into a game. Yeah, and then I moved on. I didn't really get into Quake 1, but I moved into Half-Life when the first Half-Life came out. I still somewhere have an old PC Gamer magazine with a preview for Half-Life, which is pretty neat, seeing the way that things changed. That was one of the first games I was excited about before it released because I had seen it in PC Gamer. And so I played Half-Life, and I played the crap out of Half-Life 2. Half-Life also, not Half-Life 2, although eventually Half-Life 2. But yeah, I spent a lot of time with Half-Life. I did do a little bit with the later Quakes, Quake 2 especially, Quake 3 a little bit, but I was never that... I didn't have a very good internet connection at home. So my ability to do deathmatch was pretty wonky. I remember complaining about those LPBs, low ping bastards, which is not something people talk about much anymore. Yeah, and then I played all the games I could get my hands on, which was not that many because I didn't have very much money for gaming growing up. But I played both Diablo 1 and Diablo 2. I played Half-Life. Eventually, when Half-Life 2 came out, that was a revelation for me because I was so excited about it. And then when I was in late college, leading into, and for a while, I had sort of a gaming dark period where I didn't play much. Actually, I shouldn't say I didn't play much. I played one thing exclusively. In 2006, the beginning of 2006, I joined World of Warcraft. And I played that for 5 years. And during those 5 years, I played almost exclusively that. I didn't play much of anything else. And yeah, and so that was some of the two of the three people you heard in the Space Food Truck videos, if you ever watched that, were ex-guildmates of mine from World of Warcraft. And I mean, I had some great times playing World of Warcraft. I played primarily a druid, if you care, mostly a balanced druid, but I did do a little bit of healing here and there, but it was mostly a boomkin back when that was a thing, because I fell out of it during Cataclysm, but I think they removed a lot of the spending your entire time as a moonkin. I don't know, I'd have to go and check. Yeah, and so that's pretty much my main things. I also do like simulation games, I should say. I played every Civilization game that's ever come out. Civilization 2 is the only game that I've ever lost time in. And by that I mean you look up and think it's been an hour, but it's been 4. That's the only game that's ever happened to me too in. What else did I play? I remember playing SimEarth as a child. I actually handwrote a letter to Maxis, asking them some questions about SimEarth, which I wonder if I still have that anywhere. It's probably at my parents' house. Yeah, and so that's mostly my gaming history. In terms of playing them on the channel, I probably won't do that just because there's not really that much, aside from just a nostalgia for me, there's not that much interest for your average viewer watching me play a game they know or a game they don't give a shit about. So I probably won't do that. I will take advantage to do things like when I played Brutal Doom, because it was kind of recent, but it also lets me harken back to my old days. Yeah, so I think that's my gaming history. Time to move on to the next section. All right, so now time for the channel section of this Q&A. So the first question comes from Chris Davis, who wants to know what the story is behind the screen name Cromulent Archer. Well, Cromulent Archer came about mostly, first of all, you should know the word cromulent, which means acceptable, good enough, it works. comes from an episode of The Simpsons during the Golden Age, back in the sort of mid to early period, I guess is where the Golden Age falls now. From an episode called Lisa the Iconoclast, where the actual quote, I believe, is there's another word called that says "embiggens" is used several times as this word that doesn't seem to really exist, but people use all the time. And one of the characters says, "embiggens, I never heard that word before I moved to Springfield." And another character says, "I don't know why, it's perfectly crumulent word." And that's where I got it from. I've always liked the word. I think it sounds like what it means, even though it's not really a real word. And and so that's where I got that. And archer is just a word I like. I've always thought if I were ever to actually write a novel, the main character's last name would be Archer. Don't really know why. It's just one of those things. And so you stick them together and you get a name that is super unique. Like if you Google it, and in the quotes, so that it has to be together. I'm the only thing that's going to come up. So it kind of worked out together. I just liked it. No real super background on it. It's also not not like a screen name that I used for a long time. I made it up specifically for the channel. So Hazardous Titans wants to know, what's your method of getting started up, and what is your recording software you use on your video? So primarily I use Audacity for my audio, which records from my mic. In terms of video, I move around. Primarily I use Fraps, just because it's super easy to press record and go. I will sometimes use Open Broadcaster software, also known as OBS, because some games don't like Fraps. And also Fraps is a much higher overhead system. It's old technology, and so it can cause some instability. It can cause the game to get to be not working so well. I don't know if you can hear it. My dog is bothering me. Come here. Come on. Oh, come on. You can do it. There you go. There she is. She wanted to be on my lap. Normally I don't let her up, but I'm only talking, so not having to mess with the keyboard. So we'll do that. So that's mostly what I do. In terms of my method of getting started up, I assume, what was your method of getting started up? I decided I wanted to do it. I actually originally was watching Let's Plays mostly from Mathis games, and then some from Northernlion at the time. I hadn't really been that familiar with the Let's Play community prior to starting. I liked Project Zomboid, and I went looking for Project Zomboid related videos, and the rest is kind of history. I saw Mathis doing it and watched him for a while, and then I moved on to Northernlion because they're connected to each other, and I liked Northernlion, and then it's sort of snowballed from there. I've seen all the regular people since then. But I decided, sure, why not? Let's give it a try. I was going through a period of unemployment when we moved to a new place, and it was a nice hobby and a good way to add a little bit of structure to my day, because when you're unemployed, sometimes it gets a little loosey-goosey. And it gave me something to get up and do every morning, so that was that's why I got started, which I think is what you were asking in that question. So Luke DG wants to know, what are your expectations about the NPCs in Project Zomboid? I get this question a lot. Actually, mostly I get the question, have they added NPCs yet? Which my answer is always no. It'll probably be one of the last things they do before they full release the game, as much as that means. I'm wary of NPCs, if I'm being honest. They have to nail it. It's one of these things that they really are going to have to nail it right on the head, or else they're going to be annoying or just sort of in the way. I'm excited to see it. Indie Stone hasn't really led me wrong on too many occasions, so I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt, but it could go, who knows, it could go either way. I'm excited about it, but we'll see. Also, another Zomboid related question, Ianbot? I don't know how you say. Will Project Zomboid videos stop soon / somewhere in the near future? I love the series the most when you play. I have no intention of stopping. I'm sure eventually I'll burn out, but as long as they keep updating it, I'll pretty much be still there. It's a nice thing to always have counting on at my channel. I enjoy having something I don't have to think about, don't have to go looking for new videos, new games, I should say. when it comes to that. As long as people keep enjoying watching it, I'll keep making it. Or as long as I keep enjoying it. As long as both me and you enjoy the fact that they're on the channel, I'll keep doing it. So this is kind of a series of questions. Lucator says, will you do more games like Level 22? Not only these kind of games, but other little games that we could discover. Keep up with the good work. Robert McKinney wants to know if I'll ever play XCOM or more RimWorld. And Vidya Crusader says, you're known for playing games most we haven't heard of and haven't got into yet. What draws you to these type of games? How do you choose which games to play? So these are all kind of related questions, so I figure it's a decent thing to do them together. The way I choose games is I spend several hours a week in the Steam upcoming games section. I also troll Kickstarter and a few other places just looking for games that I think look interesting. That's mostly my criteria. Does the game look interesting? Do I think usually it's something visually striking or an interesting game mechanic that that I think would do well, and that's pretty much how I choose them. There's the thing about I'm trying to grow the channel. Like that's the main goal. Like I have a lot of fun doing this, and I like showing new games to people. But I'm also trying to grow the channel to get bigger. And there's this sort of trick, especially now with the way that I'm set up, where I have to find games that are interesting and fun to play, but aren't going to be monopolized by the big guys. A good example of this was Scrap Mechanic. I was super excited about Scrap Mechanic, but I knew that it was not a good choice for the channel. I played it anyways because I was super excited about the game. But I was going to get my ability for anybody to find me playing that game outside of people who already knew me was virtually zero, because all of the big guys were going to play it. Whereas the kind of games I need to find are things like Pony Island, which is a small game, but also really neat and fun and clever, that lets me sort of be the guy that people saw play that game. If you look at the other guys, a lot of the other big guys out there, that's happened. Or previously mentioned Mathis Games, he made his name with his Project Zomboid. Northern Lion with his Binding of Isaac, and I think before that Super Meat Boy stuff. Markiplier playing Amnesia Dark Descent. These are all like games. You have to find a game that nobody else is playing that kind of takes off. Dragast started out with, or made his big break from 8,000 to whatever ridiculous number he's at now with, what was the game called? Can't remember what it's called. The game Stranded Deep. That was the name of that game. And also with Besiege, he sort of did a 2-for-1 right after the other. These people all deserve their success that they have, but you need a breakout game is what you need to grow. And so I'm always looking for that. So that's basically how I choose games. So will I ever play XCOM? Probably not. It's too monopolized by the big channels. I would love to play XCOM. I might play it on my own, but I won't record it. As for RimWorld, I will absolutely go back to it next time it's updated. Tynan is taking a break from the game, and we'll come back to it sometime. I think it was actually next month, April. I think he said he would start working on the game again. So as soon as that's updated, you will absolutely see RimWorld on the channel again, because I love that game. And so yeah, I think that answers that question for the most part. Bob Frankenschmutzer asked me if I have a job on YouTube, which I mentioned already. I work behind the scenes in TV news. Do you foresee your YouTube becoming your full-time job at any point? I would love that. I actually really enjoy my work, so it's not a matter of me not wanting to do my job anymore. I know some people, YouTubers, they were previously waiters or some office drones, some job that they didn't actually enjoy doing. I actually enjoy my work. I just the time, the schedule, I don't enjoy very much. So if I could become a full-time YouTuber, I would absolutely love it because it would give me more flexibility in my work. The thing about working in behind the scenes as TV news is if you're not doing your job, somebody else has to. You can't just let it sit. So it's hard to take time off, which is really annoying, especially around the holidays, because it's really hard for me to visit my family because it's hard for me to get days off around Christmas. And I have to travel. I don't live near my family. So if I can't just have Christmas off and be able to have Christmas with my family, I have to get on a plane and go somewhere. So I need to have a week off around Christmas, which you can't do in TV news unless you're the top person. And I'm very much not the top person at my station. And yeah, so I would love to be a full-time YouTuber, mostly just for a more flexible schedule. And because I love doing this, I think it's super fun. And he also asked, will you get into streaming? I would love to get into streaming. It's one of those things I always mean to do and never get around to doing it. Because I don't understand the setup for it entirely, and I need to just sit down and figure it out one day. But I've never done it. So the answer is yes, I would love to get into streaming. Will I ever do it? I have no idea. Probably, hopefully, but I have no timetable on that. I will absolutely make sure everybody knows about it when it's time, though. Big announcements on the channel when I start streaming. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I think I hit most of the major questions. I might not have read yours specifically, but I think I hit all the major sort of themes of question. I'll also probably be in the comments, so if you have another question you want to ask, and I'll be around in the comments to answer it. So thanks so much for the Q&A. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you later. Thanks so much.